Hey, Biomutant's out now. I've been playing it for a couple of days, and I have a lot to say. Now, I usually go into the deep, critical, nitpicking stuff on Game Ranks videos. The Before You Buy is out if you want to check that out. But here, I like to just talk about the stuff I love and the stuff that interests me, and I got a lot to say about Biomutant because it was a game I was really looking forward to. It's a game that is super ambitious and does a lot of cool things. I think I've enjoyed it more than the average reviewer. Ultimately, I came away a little bit more disappointed. I think it fell short of my expectations. It's a rough game and a bummer. And still, while it might not be the strongest game in the world, I think it makes for a really interesting conversation because I'm so torn on this one. Because I mean, like, these guys shot for the moon. They were incredibly ambitious if you think about it. Like break it down what it is. It's an open world, a really big open world, kung fu action adventure RPG where there's melee weapons, hand-to-hand combat, and guns, and it's post-apocalyptic, and there's a morality system like a Paragon Renegade type system, branching narratives, conversation, dialogue stuff with NPCs, but it's all anthropomorphized, anthropomorphic. I went to college for a minute, and then I dropped out, but at least I majored in English, so I know how to spell anthropomorphic. Jesus Christ. And when you play it, because honestly, I do think if you were really interested in this game, I don't think reviews are going to sway you too much just because I feel like if you were sold on this concept, you might want to see it through. That's why I still think this might have a cult following for some folks. You can see the moments of greatness in terms of just the world design, the way these characters look, the art style, some of the deeper story, like the actual overarching thing, not like the main quest, but I just mean like the setup of this world, all the design aspects, the fact that I think the combat is decent. It's a bit rough, but the fact that they can kind of seamlessly handle really cool combos, slow motion, shooting with your guns and dodging, while also having some cool melee weapons and melee weapon combat animations with actual good combo strings and all this environmental chaos going on and blocking and parrying and dodging and triggering all these special abilities. It's a lot. The game lumps so much onto you from so many different directions, and a lot of the times it collapses under its own weight. But I don't know. Like, I think it's just a bizarre clash of genres and styles that completely butt heads with each other sometimes, but it just makes it all appealing and interesting. That's why I can't help but not talk about it. It certainly feels, and I think one of the problems people might have with it is that it really feels like a AA game. It feels like a game that is not AAA budget, published by a European studio. And we've played a lot of those. I've reviewed so many of those, like Focus Home Interactive games, those mid-tier, mid-publisher games that certainly aren't bad, but I think if a lot of a mainstream audience was expecting something bigger from this, they might be disappointed. There are some issues with the presentation. There's a lot of stuff lacking where it's rough around the edges, but you get a lot of charm. There's something about this game. I went through ups and downs, hills and valleys playing this game. By the end, I think it outstood its welcome a little bit. But there's something where once it clicks where you're like, oh, this is like relaxing. This is kind of like this like weird, charming mix of something kind of like a fantasy open world adventure like The Witcher, but not really, but mixed with like the charm and positive tally-ho spirit of something like Paddington, like, which sounds insane. But like the first thing I wrote in my notes, like I fired up this game. I binged through like 3 or 4 hours of it when I got the review code. My first notes, I have it right here. Paddington, Witcher, chilled, pleasant vibes. And that's the one thing that stuck throughout. After seeing the whole game, a lot of the frustrations, a lot of the problems came to mind, but that thing that I wrote in my notes stuck through the whole way. I love exploration in this game. And I like the way the game rewards me for exploring by finding, obviously, more enemies to fight, but loot to get. Because I really like the crafting system. I had so much fun scrounging up parts. It does actually make you feel like this post-apocalyptic squirrel mutant rummaging through garbage and finding a pipe and finding a banana and finding like a weird old thing screwed together, and you cobble it all together and make weapons. Guns, melee weapons. You can tack crap and garbage onto your armor pieces, and that makes for some good, satisfying RPG shit. You have to have all of the components, of course, the crafting components, in order to complete a build, but it really was satisfying, and it kind of felt like a step above like Fallout 4, Fallout 76's crafting stuff, just because visually and the amount of stuff that they're giving you was really over the top and really satisfying. And that's what I do like about the game, is that it's always doling out stuff in a good way, not in a way where you're just constantly shuffling through loot and it's all color-coded rarities. It does have that, but you're not just getting miles and piles of shit. I played so many games recently where it's like, oh my god, it's like you're going through and you're like sort, delete, sort, break down, scrap, sell. I like the way they drip fed you stuff here. So like you're customizing all of these things that you're getting around with, whether you're running around in the environment, you're riding on a mount, you're flying, you're jet skiing, whatever you're doing, there's all an air of customization to it, and it's all just different ways to see this weird, crazy world with shocking draw distances and just incredible visual design overall. That was my favorite aspect of the game, because it for me turned into kind of like a mindless open world chill out game where I'm just kind of hanging out. I want to do some mindless quests. At one point, I did have a podcast on in the background. Some people play games like that. I usually don't, but every once in a while I do, where it's just like you just want to pop into this weird world, grind out some quests, and go on your merry way. And that's kind of where it really hit for me. You know, at the end of the day, have a glass of bourbon or whatever you do. Maybe you just have some iced tea. Just sit at your desk and just blast through some stuff. Everybody has a different type of game for that. Some people it's Skyrim, some people it's Destiny. It could be anything. And Biomutant hit that for me. Now, I did also allude that it does outstay its welcome a little bit, specifically because of the bold choice that I think is really worth highlighting and commending, even though it didn't work. And that is the fact that the entire game is narrated. We've seen games like that before, where a charming narrator talks you through the entire tale. That really added to the charm here, that relaxing, positive, uplifting, but also kind of like a grim, beneath the surface type of thing of like Paddington, where it's super charming and great and nice and makes you smile, makes you feel warm and fuzzy, but you can't just help but sometimes think that that bear could just murder everyone instantly. I probably talked about Paddington way too much, but what I'm trying to say is that the narrator thing is both the best choice of this game and its curse. It's its blessing, it's its gift, it's its curse, it's Spider-Man. Not only is the whole game narrated, but also the NPCs, right? So you talk to a lot of NPCs in this game. You go to a town, you get a quest, you meet a guy on the road, you get a side quest, you talk to a vendor. It's an RPG. You're talking to lots of characters. All of the characters are, creatures, critters, marsupials, or whatever. They all look really cool, but they all speak in their native animal gibberish. And so you're basically speaking to the characters in the game through the narrator as a translator. So the character will go blah, 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 blah. And then the narrator will say, he says blah, 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 blah. That's kind of cool. That's very different. I don't think it was like a budget cut thing where it's like, oh, they couldn't hire a bunch of voice actors. I don't agree with that. I think it was an actual, honest, creative choice and leads to that whole vibe I was talking about. This like Paddington's storybook Witcher fairy tale thing where the entire thing is a tale being told to you as you go on your adventure. The problem with it, though, is a direct clash with the fact that you can't really get any personality out of these characters. While some of them might look cool, actually any of them being memorable is really few and far between, and it's a major bummer because this game needs something like that. The main quest was like, okay, like there was a lot of repetitiveness to it, so you were hoping to latch onto these characters, but alas, you don't get to hear how they sound. You don't get any of their quips delivered the same way. If they had any, just the way they spoke, the way they delivered their lines, the voice actor, anything like that, you don't get that, so you get zero attachment. That might not be the case for everybody, but it was for me, and it was a bummer. But I gotta say, I fucking respect that that's what they tried to do here. Because, again, that whole storybook thing. They had an idea, they had a concept, and they were going for it. It just ultimately didn't quite work. And I think trying a new idea and going hard and failing, subjectively, to me, that failure, I think, is still warranted. And I think the fact that I'm talking about it, like an honest try to do something different is worth it, right? Even if it falls short, maybe if you don't even end up buying the game for this and other issues, I still think that the world of games is better for it, for an idea being tried out and played out like that. Because I do think, and I said this in the before you buy, so I'm sorry I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I do think, and I always use the phrase, but if it could pull an Assassin's Creed 2, where the second game really hammers home all those ideas and really just makes it so good, I think a Biomutant sequel could be awesome. The way it ends, I don't know what they could do. Basically, if they tried this idea again, I would love to see this kind of rebooted, shored up, with more interesting quests, less of a repetitive nature. Honestly, the world doesn't have to be that big. It could be filled with more life, though. Characters that you could actually get more attached to, more presentation, more ramping into the storytelling. I really think you could have something special there. And I do think some people are going to stick with Biomutant because they see that potential. And that's why I stuck with it. And that's why I took my time moseying about. As much as like I found a lot of the main stuff repetitive, I really loved just venturing out into the massive biomes and finding a cave and getting a cool sword. What I'm trying to say here is that trying a new idea and failing on your face is still more interesting than something that's just completely paint by the numbers and just the same old stuff where it was like, yeah, it was, I'd rather have something like this where it's like, it tried it and like, blah, it didn't work, but I remember it and it was creative. All right, now some of the stuff this game tried is out there for other people making video games or people who want to make video games who could be inspired years from now. Someone could play this game because they're a furry and that's fine, but they might say, oh, now I'm going to grow up and become a video game designer. Like these things have lasting effects, just like, making choices in RPGs. I don't know. The game went for it. The game's wild and it feels like it was a room full of people that all had different things. Somebody wanted to make a kung fu game. Somebody really liked Fable. Somebody really liked Fallout and Skyrim. Somebody wanted guns in it. Somebody wanted it to be like super chill in Paddington. Somebody wanted it to be a little more grim than that. Somebody wanted like a comic book style to it that just pops up occasionally. There's so much going on here. And like I said, it's a clash of genres and ideas. And I just spent 10, 15 minutes talking about it. Considering it's not even the best game in the world, it's still special. I don't know. That's all I was trying to express here. The importance of ideas, trying things, Biomutant, the end. So hopefully I can kind of add some sort of positive spin on the review discourse right now. I know it's getting pretty like middling reviews, so to speak, but I thought maybe you guys would think this perspective was a little interesting. So let's talk Biomutant. Like I said, I'm just talking about stuff I love, and those are the aspects I found the most interesting. So I want to hear from you what you're thinking on Biomutant, especially if you got it on launch. What are you thinking so far? What are your first impressions? Also, if you've seen reviews and you decided to wait, what ultimately pushed you over the edge? What drawback, changed your mind? But I'd also love to hear like what I said about ideas and execution and failing on your face, but at least you tried something that was cool and different. I want to know what you think. So let me know. Thank you for coming around here and listening to me ramble about Biomutant. I got some more stuff to talk about soon. I'm very excited. So keep your eyes peeled. Clicking the like button helps if you like what I'm trying to do here and not just hate shit for the YouTube algorithm. I would appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I only put out a video like once or twice a week. Not going to spam you, but thank you for being here. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Jake Baldino. You can subscribe because video games.